Hey everybody, thought I'd show you my new building I'm working on. So it's going slow, but here it is. You see it's got 16-foot walls. This thing's gonna be great when it's done. Probably gonna have some gatherings, some get-togethers here and stuff. I'm gonna have a big overhead door here. Today I've been working with the front end loader here, moving some stuff around, getting this gravel in here. Now I'm out of gravel, I'm waiting for more gravel to come. Moving some earth around. It's kind of shallow up there, but it gets deep down here. We're gonna have like 6 to 8 foot of gravel going out for about 10 feet past here. We're gonna have a wraparound driveway kind of thing, and then we're gonna put an 8-inch slab of concrete over the top of this. So this is gonna be kind of permanent here, you know. We're gonna have some parking here, so we're gonna have a overhead door up here too. The floor is going to be way up here, so we're going to have like, 6 to 8 foot of gravel come out up this high back here, and then we're going to put concrete over the top of it. So for now, I've just been burying some stuff that I don't really want anymore, kind of, some garbage I don't ever want to be found right here, in this spot. I'm in a jungle of cattails and grass, hard to walk through. There's no trails through here except for an occasional deer trail. I just started seeing a whole bunch of deer tracks in here. I'm only 100 yards from the truck and right where everybody else would walk. This property, for whatever reason, seems to get ignored at this time of the year. There are some beat deer trails in here, but when I got to this point, I was just kind of like, holy crap, looking at this bed here. Look at this. That is so worn down and so well used. I wouldn't doubt it if we kicked the deer out of there. That's amazing. Underneath a cedar tree where they get the cover, and they don't have the sun blaring on them. But that's a big worn bed that had been bedded in a lot. And everything around here is browsed on. Look at that. Things just live in here. It's amazing. Even when I got out of the truck by the public land parking lot, I had to walk through about 10 or 15 night beds right next to the parking lot. A little bit further back in this jungle of cattails, there's this area where the grass is just pummeled and full of feces. The deer have been coming and staging here. And it's right adjacent to a bean field here. So it makes me wonder if this is older sign. The poop is kind of dried up. A lot of this sign looks like about 2 weeks old. So these deer might have been eating in the beans and now they might be back further. But sure shows there's a lot of deer in the area. This looks actually pretty good. I can't believe how pummeled this is. That is amazing to have all this grass knocked over, and look at all the little limbs and stuff in here are chewed off. Look at that. Look at this. This is crazy. We haven't kicked any deer up, but we're not very far back either. Oh, look at that, there's a fresh rub. That's the first rub I've seen this year. Look at this, it's all pounded down too. Look at that's broken off. We're hunting a fat chick today. My truck is 150 yards that way, but I had to go through a jungle here. It's obvious nobody's been back here. I ran into the same thing last year, and last year I pressed on, kind of because I got my scent all over the place. This year I went in a little bit different, and hopefully I got it all right. I can see one oak tree. I can't tell if it's dropping or it has acorns on it, but it's right on top of me. But there's a lot of sign in here, just a ton of deer sign. I mean, it has a tendency to look a couple weeks old. But I think they might still be coming through here. I mean, everywhere you look, there's browse and trails just busted through this stuff. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Everything is like that. I peeked my head out over there, and where there's a little transition of brush at the edge of a crop field, every tree over there has a fresh rub on it. There's like 50 rubs over there. Now, I didn't go over to see if they're tacky or anything. And it could be that these deer were in here a week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm just missing them because there's beans in the crop field. They could have been eating the beans when they're green. Those beans are yellow now. But with this amount of sign, I have to stop and hunt here. I just can't blow these deer out of here. The one bed I found back there was definitely fresh, definitely used within a day. So that bed tells me that they're probably still here. Most of the browses that I'm finding the bite marks are dried up. About a week ago tops, which tells me they could still be here, or at least some of them are still here. I'd like to shoot back further, but if I do, I'm burning this spot, and I have to hunt this. Nobody's been in here yet. I'll give this a hunt. I don't see anything. I'm shooting back further. For now, I'm going to hunt right next to the road. Hear the traffic. This nasty tree, it goes up on a winding. It's dead. I gotta try and get up there and be skylit. But it's the only tree I can use without sawing. It'll give me a shot through here, shot through there, shot through there. I believe the deer are bedding out here. There's a little island of brush out there that has a taper point coming to here. And my belief is they're coming off of that point into here. And then they're filtering through this stuff, feeding. Some of the trails go that way, some of the trails go this way, and some of the trails go straight across, but they all come in right here. And I have shooting to this whole little wood lot here. It's kind of a little tiny patch of trees within marsh, within swamp. It tapers up. It's kind of like a point. It tapers back up to private land. It's nice when you get these trees that are all wonky like this and twisted, that you can have a stick that doesn't roll around the tree. It just locks in. That way I can get up silent. Other sticks will roll around to the low side. I can go up this tree one way and get to the stand. So last Wednesday, I did some podcasts and such and a show late into the night. And then Thursday, I got up at midnight, worked till 10:30, and then drove straight up north to bear hunt. And when I got done hunting, I drove all the way back, 3.5 or 4 hours or whatever it is, and slept for a couple hours, then took Carol to her Friday morning appointments, then drove all the way back up to bear hunt on Friday. Friday night, right before closing, Rick shot a big bear. And it took us half the night to get that bear out. And then I had to drive home. We got home at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. And then I slept till dawn. And at dawn I got up, we went outside, put a tarp out, skinned the bear, deboned it, packaged all the meat as fast as we could because of how hot it's been. And by the time I got done with that, it was the middle of the day. So I decided to take an hour nap before I went hunting on opening day. When my alarm clock went off after an hour, I decided screw it. I was way too tired to be in a tree. So yesterday was the first opening day, probably ever, that I didn't bow hunt. Kind of strange. Kind of feels weird being out here opening Sunday. It was worth a try, but I didn't see one deer. I think my assumption that the sign was about a week or two old was spot on. I'm back to the same property I was at Sunday. It's now Tuesday. I'm starting out where I left off, which I hunted right over there. And I saw all these rubs from over there. So as I'm coming through here, I want to check these out before I go back further. And one thing I see right away is they're not tacky anymore at all. None of them are. And there's a lot of rubs, and not one of them is tacky. And if they're done within the last week, they'd be tacky. So that tells me all these pounded trails, these tracks and stuff, are about a week or two old, which matches the fact that there's a bean field right here. And that bean field has turned yellow in the last week or so, gotten bitter. So they probably backed off on the beans But I would be willing to bet the deer ain't far off. I bet you they're just further back. There is an oak ridge out that way and some oak trees over here on this point. So I would say they're probably bedded back there a few hundred yards. And I did run into some bucks last year, nothing shootable. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. None of the sign looks enormous, but there are some pretty big bucks in this area, so there is hope. There's not much for oaks out in here, but this is the good bedding. You get over there on the private, and the private seems to actually get more pressure than the public here. This is a nasty mess to get down into. Not a lot of people come down here, especially early season. So I think the bucks come off of the private bed on the public back here. And then in the cover of darkness, they go eat in the oaks over there, where the people hunt during the day. So we'll see. Well, I got back to the point where I wanted to be. The sign ain't glowing. I did see a couple old rubs in there and some weeds that were broken. They were broken freshly. The leaves are still green on the broken stems. So I know deer have been through here. But I can tell you, most guys would look at what I'm looking at now and probably turn around and go forward. And this is what I'm seeing. You see the old trails and stuff. No tracks on them. No tracks on this trail. An old tink spottle. And no rubs or anything. But if there's a deer bedded out here, the way the terrain is set up, they're going to come up onto this point. This is a point leading out into the swamp bedding out here. They're going to come to this point and then make their way through. And the one thing that gives me confidence is when I look at this, I see a lot of browse. So your average guy doesn't notice it at first. He just notices the tracks. But if you look close, every bush on here, the leaves are eaten off of. Look at this. See that? All of them are eaten off. It's eaten down to the ground. This should be as thick as that. This has been eaten down as deer browse your way through here. You can see where even some of the leaves are torn in half. See all the leaves missing? All along the deer trails. The key is that this week's sign or last week's sign, I'm not sure. It's obviously somewhat last week's sign, but there is some nipped off branches and stuff that look fresh. And really, at the amount of time it took me to get back here, this is it, all or nothing. I got to hunt back here somewhere. And I think from where I can get back into here, this is probably my highest odds. So I look around, and the deer got to come out of there, out of there, out of here, or out of there. The wind is blowing like this. I think this tree right here, this oak tree, I can get right there. I can shoot down to there, and I can shoot all of this. And any deer that comes through here, I've got. Now, when I got to this point, I really came in slow. I looked for that tree, and I knew I'd be right in this area. So I came in a way, wind to nose, straight to that tree from an area deer shouldn't come from. They should come from in front of me. So now I'm stopped 10 feet from the tree where I can obviously shoot, and I'll shoot before a deer gets over here. So all I have to do is slip to that tree, slip up that tree quietly, and just wait and see what happens. And just settling in here, letting it calm down. The wind's finally calmed down a little bit. Got about an hour left of daylight. I got a little clue as to why the sign might be older. And every year that first week when I come in here, it's pretty hot. It doesn't look like anybody's hunted in here. However, from the tree when I got up here, through a little opening over here, I spotted something. See if I can get it on camera here. It's only 15 yards away. So somebody's monitoring the area with a cell cam. A couple things. You put a cell cam like that in this area, this is a sensitive area. If he did it recently, he would have killed the action here. Which, he probably did it recently. Probably when all the sign went dry. Second of all, if there was a big buck coming through on a regular basis and going in front of that camera, he'd be in the tree next to me, so he's not out here. This is probably his tree. I was noticing how straight that was. You know, it looks like it's been climbed, but it's old sign from last year. He hasn't hunted yet. They could be in a lot of places, but I picked this spot because of the oaks. There's some good isolated oaks here, and I think it's going to attract attention, but more than just from the deer. It's going to attract attention from hunters too. But I think I can get further back than the hunters. I'm at the first oaks now, and there are acorns on the ground, but first thing I see when I get here onto this little island is there's a cell cam right there. I don't know if you see it. They could have hunted here. I don't see any setups, but there was a guy set up here last year, and he had a trail camera last year. So it's going to be an ongoing thing in this spot. But I can get further back, and I'm sure I'll get where the deer are. And if he hasn't been back there, I should get one good crack. Today's the first north wind coming out of there. So I do believe that nobody with any common sense would have hunted in here yet, and there's nobody here today. So I think I got the first hunt, but this guy did come in here and taint this area with a camera. I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but they'd be better off in a spot like this to slide in here and do a hunt than to slide in here, put a camera, and go home and wait for something on the camera, because chances are that deer comes through the first day that you put that camera up, or the next day, smells you were here, and leaves. If you just came in and did a hunt, then you could kill him. If you really got to have the camera as a pacifier, when you come in here to hunt, drop the camera. Or drop it way in advance, not right before the season. I'm running into a lot of trail cameras this year, everywhere I look. Okay, I got back to the spot where I've had action in the past. And I've hunted right here in the past, out of this tree right here. I got out here, and it's pretty obvious. Somebody hunted out of that tree more than once over the last couple days. The season's only been open a few days, and that's been hunted a few times. So there is acorns on the ground, but I don't see one rub. I hear acorns dropping. And what's bizarre is the wind's been wrong. The wind would have been blowing right into the bedding area when this guy was hunting it. Is what it is. Guess I'll just move on. I got back into this thick stuff, and here's a ladder section, and pegs going up this tree here. First spot I went to had a trail camera. I didn't intend to set up there anyways. I went past it and beyond it. The next spot I get to, you can see where somebody climbed the tree. And remember, it's only day 5 of the season. So I abandoned that and came over here. On the way over here, I found where somebody dragged a deer out. Then I found where a ground blind was on the ground, and cigarettes were all over the ground. Then there's a spot over here I haven't hunted in a couple of years, few years actually, that used to be really hot. Killed a couple good bucks there. I went there, and my tree was set up in, and you gotta crawl through brush to get there. Somebody had been hunting out of the exact same tree. You wouldn't think in a million years somebody'd find that tree where it's at. So I crossed through the swamp there, started seeing some sign deep in the swamp, then saw boot prints, so I kept going. I came over here where there's an oak flat that's surrounded by swamp, kind of like an island. I've seen a lot of big bucks in this area. Last year, just before I shot my buck, I ran into a guy right here, and there was 2 trail cameras. This year when I got in here, I don't see any fresh sign. I don't see any trail cameras. I don't see any people sign. Doesn't mean somebody didn't get in here. They may have. But I'm running out of time. So I'm setting up here. There's acorns dropping, and there's no acorns anywhere else around for a ways. There's a big acorn island over there, but that gets a lot of pressure. As far as unpressured, this is probably the only oaks around. So we'll sit here and see if anything shows up. It's obviously obvious that this gets pounded later in the year. And the reason I say that is because I'm looking at the tree next to me. You can see somebody set up in it. Not this year, but the last couple of years at some point in time, because There's probably all the way around a 12 pack of beer cans and assorted other garbage. Real class act hunted there. There is a real good deer trail that comes right through here, and there's a scrape right there, which is probably why that guy was hunting here. The trail goes through this tree right here, this oak tree, right there. That one is dropping like crazy. But there's some more oaks further up. There's bedding back that way, and there's bedding off this way. And there's bedding over in here. From past experience, I find that the bucks are generally over there, coming this way. But we'll see. I'll just sit tight and see if anything even shows up. We are down to the last hour. I barely made it to this tree in time to set out. See if anything shows up. Oh, look at this. I got more company. Wow. That is right across from me. That is about 8 yards from me. Nice. Well, I'm at Dave's farm. I'm going to give this a try. It's my first time here this year. We got a good wind. It's kind of northwest. And the reason that's good is because anything that's straight west blows right into the bedding on this farm. I got an access from over there, and over there is the bedding. With a couple of exceptions, most of the spots in here are set up for either south or north or east. But there's buck bedding in here, and then I got a spot set up over here. One thing that concerns me is that somebody came back here and dumped a bunch of garbage since I've been back here last, which was about at least a month ago, probably 5-6 weeks ago. And they dumped all this stuff here. Looks like it's sawdust from working on a building or something. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they could have got back here, but you know, the way I come, and really you can't just drive back here, so I don't know how this could have got dumped here. Ridiculous. I got to the tree. This is it. I got to stand up 2 sticks, and the bucks come out right over here. I'm really pushing it close here. I'm within 50 yards of the bedding. I had to set up the stand, slip in here. I noticed coming through here, there's a lot of sign in the field behind me, and it looks like a lot of the sign is coming in from over there. I do have a little bit of a shooting lane I just made to over there, but I don't think I'll be able to shoot most of the deer that I would see over there, but at least if I see them, I get a heads up what's coming out over there. But I walked through there, so we'll see if they spook from my scent or not. I just walked through, so just grass, maybe I'll get away with it. But I'm really expecting them over here. I'm not set up yet, and there's a deer here. They just walked through there, and he's in here, right here, 10 yards. I don't know where it went. But, oh, there it is. There it is. Now that's setting up quiet. That deer was feeding right underneath me when I set up the stand. I looked down, he was right underneath me. It was a doe. There's probably some fawns around here too. It just fed off over there. It's a good sign. There's a lot of deer sign in here. Coming in, there was a lot of sign behind me. A lot more than I expected. But the bean field back here got planted really late. sun to my back, which is nice because then if the deer look at me, they're seeing the sun. Just slightly skylit because I'm in this tiny little tree. This is all just bushes in here. So, as you can see, so I gotta be in a tree like this because those deer bed right there. Where those trees start, the beds start right there, and there's some beds over here. I'm literally within, I would say, 40 yards of the first buck beds. Then they stretch around the corner and they go for up to about 75 yards. But that whole area inside those trees is buck beds. But there's doe bedding in there too. But most of the doe's bed over here, which are similarly close, that's probably like 50, 60 yards over on either side of this brush where the big trees start. When I came back here, I walked through here, and that grass has a ton of deer sign going through it, heading up towards the beans. So a lot of them are going through there. In the past, they always came out right here. Either went that way or they came this way. But in the past, we always had a food plot right behind me, which is kind of just grown into weeds now. I think what they're doing is they're heading up on the hill here where there's a bean field. And that bean field was planted late because they leased that field late. And when they found a farmer to put it in, it was probably 30 days later than everybody else. And he planted it beans. And those beans are the only beans around here that are still green. I probably should have been here right away near the opener, but we've had all south winds and southwest. And southwest would blow right into there. And we got northwest now and it's blowing this way. And even though there's some bedding over there, normally they don't bed over there. They come from like this. I keep hear the birds chattering in there. They've been going nuts in there around the bedding area. So I think there's some stuff up there feeding. Well, I know there is because that doe was right here. I was setting up the stand. I looked down. She was right in here walking around. She disappeared in that bush. I finished setting up the stand, and after I got it set up, I watched her walk through there and walk around the corner, and that goes right into the bedding over there where that bird's chirping. So if any of those deer come out across that grass, I should get a glimpse of them in there. That was a clover plot that hasn't been taken care of anymore, but there's still a whole bunch of alfalfa and clover in there. So it looks like the deer are feeding as they go through that stage and they go up to the beans. When the wind blows, it's definitely going that way, which is perfect. But when it calms, I'm getting a little bit of a pull down in front of me. So I'll have to remember that when a deer comes out that I gotta get an arrow in it pretty fast if I have an opportunity.
What do we have here, Dan? I got a little browse. Looks like some pretty fresh browse in the last couple days.
Bit off fresh right there. This is older. That's fresh.
Yep, and just to prove that,
That's stinging nettles, you know.
I don't get it from
okay.
stinging nettles, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty fresh.
Yeah, good. Maybe we'll run into something.
I'm hoping so.
This is a pretty good area. I haven't been in here in a couple of years.
We'll knock something down.
All right.
Let's
cool.
go. Get the dragging buddies on speed dial.
Hopefully we're not over the boots, Eric.
We'll find out in a minute.
Looking deep.
In the middle, we're going over.
Coming through that opening that we just came through,
Mm-hmm.
this trail looked pretty heavy, and I was worried that maybe some people got back into here. But looking down, I paid real close attention. You can see it's all deer tracks.
Yep, I don't see any boot prints in here.
So, I mean, there's a pretty heavy trail going this way, that way.
Looks like there's a real nice one running this transition along this long grass here.
Yeah. So this might not be a bad area right here. Let's move a little bit more. Yeah, here's a bigger track here.
Dan, where do you expect the deer to be coming out of here?
Well, when you get past these trees, it's all like marsh and swamp and nastiness. And I think they're going to come out of there and come to this point and follow this little land peninsula out to crops and stuff over there, is what I think. Now, they could come out further down, but I think they'll come out right over in here. I mean, look at this trail right there, too.
It's a beet trail.
Yeah, there's trails in here all over the place. And you can see where a deer bed right here, probably just to chew his cud, but you can see the outline of a deer there in the crushed leaves and grass. Do you see that? And right there, too? Looks like one-legged deer, too. See that?
Yep, I do.
Probably a doe group, but I'm thinking the bucks are going through here, too.
This is looking pretty good.
Okay, let's try to find a setup without stinking the area up.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out
I'm thinking in here is a good spot for you.
I want to find a tree before I cross this trail.
Yeah, that's a good plan. So we could slip around this way and go in. That's probably the better way, is to go along here where the deer would have to come by you to get over here. And then set up over in here someplace where you can shoot everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking entering this way is a good idea.
Because it's kind of hard to see the trees right now. Because we're going to have to get into one of these bush trees.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I want to spot that tree that I'm going to sit in before I cross this trail.
Okay.
So I think, yes, I agree. I think we stay off of that deer trail along this way and see if we can find an opening to shoot in.
Yep. Okay. Eric went over to a big public swamp and took one of the good areas over there, and he went in to find himself a tree. And I'm back at Dave's farm. These beans behind me are green, and there's obviously a lot of traffic going to them. So I want to, get to some positions where I can see a lot and try to see what else is going into there. I know there's got to be some good bucks. This is a good little pinch point right here. I killed a nice 10-pointer here 2 years ago, right there. There's good bedding right there, and there's bedding further back. They might be coming through later. So my next move is going to be to move back further. And considering I hunted down into there a ways yesterday and walked through here, I'd rather be back there. But I do feel that there's a lot of potential right here, and moving over to this area and hunting this first is probably a good option, because once I walk back past here, I kind of burn this. Now I can walk in a long way around it, and that's probably what I'll do when I do go back there. But every time I start my truck back there to leave, where I have to park, now that there's new landowners in the front, spooks the deer. Every time I walk past there, spooks the deer. So I want to give this one more fresh sit, and right away, the day after I set that, because deer don't come out every single day. So the deer that didn't come out yesterday have a good chance of coming out today and not walking where I walked and smelling me. But in a lot of cases, they'll walk across your scent trail and still come through the next day. So we're giving it a shot. The bedding area is back in here. Yesterday I sat down in there. There's a ton of deer sign coming right through here, little trails and stuff. There's a heavy trail going in right here. There's some heavy trails coming out over here. And the bedding's back in there. And this was a food plot. And the clover and alfalfa is still growing through over there. And there's a lot of sign of deer in there. And this was corn last time it was planted 2 years ago. And the clover has just spidered through here, and there's really good clover coming up in there, as well as other browse plants that are wild. And you can see where deer are feeding in this whole thing. You know, they come out over here, they could come through here, they could come through here, they could come through here. But from this position, I should be able to see deer anywhere they come into here.
I'm out on a hunt with Dan tonight, and he took me to a remote island. We have two main trails coming off of this point out here. You can kind of make out this main trail here, and you can make out the trail coming through here. This one's really hammered down, but it could show the sign a little better because it kind of sits low when it's a little damp. Now after Dan left, I sat around and juggled with a tree to sit in. It's pretty slim pickings out here. To each their own, but I have some experience with saddles, and I think I would have a heck of a time hunting in here with a saddle. There aren't any trees in here to swing around on. There are trees you can get in, but there's no room to swing around with the saddle in here. I mean, a lot of this it's pretty thick. It's loaded with buckthorn. I picked this tree right here. I picked this tree that's dead. The top has fallen off. But what this tree allowed me to do is I have my stand oriented so that anything coming up these trails would never have a chance to spot me. I have this thick brush and buckthorn right in front of me, so they definitely would not spot me. But I oriented my stand so that I have a straight on shot down to this trail here. And although a shot to this trail is behind me, being a right-hand shooter, I at least have it behind me to the left. In this scenario, what these deer are doing are coming out of bedding in this swamp and marsh out here, working their way up this point, and they're working their way towards some egg field up here, which I believe holds corn this year. Some extremely thick buckthorn right in front of me. So any deer coming down this trail, or any deer coming down that trail, would never make me out. I do have a little bit of backdrop cover as well. I did hear a stick crack, and I looked, and it was a spike coming out. So
Where'd he come from?
he came from the north. So he came from where we didn't necessarily expect them to come
Okay,
from. We kind of
yep.
expected them to come off of the point to the south
Sure.
or from the east. Now, with that being said,
North, he was coming right into the wind.
yeah, he very well could have been. I don't know what bedding situation looks
Well,
like
when it
that
got
way.
calm, he might have, but
Yeah. So he worked his way from north to south, and he walked right past me at 10 yards. I did not have a chance to get film on him. I did a little later, but that'll come in a little bit. So he worked his way from north to south.
he caught you by surprise coming from behind, right?
Yep. So I heard that stick snap, and I did look, but I didn't have a chance to get the camera swung around.
Okay.
I didn't want him to blow at me if something
Oh,
else
sure.
was in the
Sure,
area.
I get that if he was that close.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
So, but he looked right at me, and he didn't notice me at all. So he
Looked right through you.
Yep, right through me. I think this sweatshirt actually blended in really nice with the lighter camel.
And that's actually a work shirt, eh?
Yeah.
Caterpillar.
Yep. It is.
So, Caterpillar brand camo there.
Yeah. So, but this just blended in really well with the light camel.
Yeah.
So,
That is pretty light colored, though.
Yeah, so it worked really nice being right in that canopy where there was some light coming through.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but he worked his way from north to south. Then he ended up going basically where we walked in on the southwest
So you walked where we walked.
portion of the point.
Yeah.
Yep. He also crossed my scent trail, and that didn't spook him at all. I saw him. I saw him check out where we walked in,
Yeah.
and he did a little sniffing around, and then he ended up working his way down that point to the south, and wrapped around the east side of the point, jutting out into the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in from behind me. Now my wind was blowing to that trail on the east side of that finger. He caught my wind, and he started blowing, and he took off back down south, and then he came back in again. So he took off south. I lost sight of him. He worked his way back to where we walked in and came around that way, then started walking the canal north, and then started heading back east. So now he was just to the north of me, probably
big
15
circle.
yards. Yeah, yep. So it seemed to me like he knew our scent trail was there, and it wasn't enough to set him off to blow or anything, but that's exactly what he did. He made a circle around that whole area to see if he could catch any scent in the wind, any human scent. Or, and he did. He caught me. He busted me. But he did come back in afterwards. I did hear a little sloshing to my east in the water, and I think
Okay.
it was him coming in. So I think he came in from the east and worked his way around me to the north, and then came back down south right in front of me.
Ah, okay.
So, pretty sure that's what happened.
Cool.
But yeah, he
fun
spent
hunt.
some time in there. Yeah, it
To
was
see a
fun
buck
hunt.
every time on public land, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I
So,
would agree.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I hunted private land and I saw crap.
Nothing at all.
Zilch, yeah. But I kind of, I hunted a spot that's next to where I hunted last night. It's only 75 yards from where I hunted last night, but it needed to be hunted.
Sure.
You could see the deer were coming through there, and I knew if I went past, I was going to kind of blow that bedding area.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed one more thing in there to know that I didn't bypass, because there's only so many setups in there.
Right.
And once I go past there, I go past there. So I hunted it.
And you always preach this, Dan. Usually you're in there. If you're in there, you're going to be in there 2 nights in a row. You're
Yeah.
not going to be a week later.
Right.
or
I wouldn't
2
want to wait a
weeks
few
later.
days.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But even that first day, I saw 2 deer, and next day nothing, which is typical. You put more time in there, you see nothing. But I was in an area where I could see more than what I could see the day before.
okay. Okay.
So now I could cover more. I could see anything going through there. So now I'm pretty confident that anything that's coming in there that's big is maybe coming from back further
Okay.
and taking longer to get up there.
Sure. Sure.
So I'll move back further. But wouldn't mind investigating that area where you were further back too. Maybe we can both go back there, get a little further back.
Mm-hmm. I
That'd
would
be
like
fun.
to.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it really is kind of a overlooked spot, right?
It is an overlooked spot, yeah.
kind of amazed me actually. I feel like at home with me, if I found something like that, I would be hammered. But I don't know.
Well, you kind
Pressure's
of look at it
pretty
on a
good by
map.
me
It's
too,
pretty
but-
pretty hard to see that spot.
Yeah.
You know, it's
right,
just a little strip.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah, I think we should venture on from there. I think you're definitely onto something.
Yeah,
there.
I
It
think
looks
we
good.
could actually kill a pretty good buck back there
Mhm.
between the two of us. I really do.
Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Let's kill one.
Let's kill one. You heard him.